Daniel Dubois will make a defence of his IBF World Heavyweight title against Joseph Parker on February the 22nd. Now, potentially, this fight, I don't know what the situation is with Joe Parker and the WBO heavyweight or interim title, because last I checked, I don't know if Parker has vacated it yet, but if he is still champion, depending on the result of Fury Usyk and depending on what Alexander Usyk does next, say Usyk wins and decides that's it for him, well then Park will be elevated to full champion. In that sense, this would actually be a unification. And if Tyson Fury wins, I wouldn't at all rule out him vacating that title, because him and Parker are, they're like that, they're best friends or very close friends. In fact, Parker, I think, has described him like a brother. So I wouldn't rule out Fury vacating it so Parker can be elevated to champion, in which case it could be a unification. Either way, even if it is just for Dubois' IBF title, it is still a very, very good fight. One kind of thing I've noticed, and I get it, I'm not gonna have a go, I get it. A lot of fans are saying, look, yeah, Parker definitely deserves a title shot. No one's questioning that. And in terms of Daniel Dubois, credit to him. Because this is a man who, as I said, in his last 5 fights has been Alexander Usyk, Jarrell Miller, Filip Hrgovic, Anthony Joshua, and now Joseph Parker. And out of those 5 fights, he's won 4 of them. And that's a flipping good. And, I think the Jarrell Miller fight, given how good he looked against Andy Ruiz, he was hard done by not to get the nod. In my opinion, he was. And, me, I'm not the greatest amount of time for Jarrell Miller, but yeah, he won that fight, in my opinion. It's made that win look all the more better because Miller's shown that he still has something left in the tank. The win against Joshua, the win against Hrgovic, it looks good. It really does. And, Alexander Usyk aside, it's been a great run of form. And if he beats Joseph Parker, that resume alone, it's incredible, really, to think that. Because I genuinely did think after the Usyk fight, I was like, that's going to take some coming back from. And Frank Warren, to his credit, he will sink or swim you if needs be. And he did that against Daniel Dubois, and he swam. I genuinely didn't think he would. I really didn't, and it shocked me, surprised me. Maybe surprised is more, but surprised, very pleasantly surprised. So I think Dubois against Parker is a great fight, but a lot of the fans are saying, and the viewers are saying, that as much as they are happy to see Parker get the nod, they're worried this will be a boring fight. Now, I get that 100%, and Joseph Parker, in some of his most recent performances, his last 2 wins in particular, he hasn't set the world alight. They haven't been showstoppers. He hasn't gone on those Riyadh shows, because they're both in Riyadh, and stole the show. He hasn't. Against Deontay Wilder couldn't pull the trigger. It was quite shocking to see how gun-shy Deontay Wilder was. And, I get Joseph Parker. You're in there with a guy who's known for having boom, one-punch knockout power. You're not going to really want to take any unnecessary risks. I get that. So he boxed, he was the superior boxer, and then he won it comfortably. Okay, goes in there with Zhilei Zhang. And again, aside from the 2 knockdowns, nothing really happened in that fight. Like, early on, it was a little bit entertaining. There was a little bit of things going on. But again, aside from the 2 knockdowns, not much happened. I think someone said Zhilei Zhang in the 12th round, he either didn't throw a punch or he didn't land the punch. Because Zhilei Zhang, after about 4 or 5 rounds, was done. He had nothing left. He had no stamina. His stamina was shocking. It came in too heavy. Career heaviest, I think it was. And he just nothing left. But again, you have to look at it in context. Joseph Parker was in there with, again, a, massive puncher. Crazy puncher. And in this fight, he was in there with a guy who wasn't afraid to let his hands go. And when he did let that left hand go, Joseph Parker was down. And it wasn't even when he let it go. That first knockdown, it didn't even look like a particularly hard shot. And Joseph Parker was on the seat of his pants. Zhilei Zhang's power is quite remarkable. It's dangerous. That guy's power is something goddamn. And I get why Joseph Parker was a bit cautious. The only problem is we have seen at times in his career when he has stepped up and fought at a truly world level, he has been a little bit too cautious, but he is saying that there have been times where he has fought guys who will come forward, put a bit of pressure on him. They have been good fights. No one's going to turn around and tell me Dillian Whyte was not an entertaining fight. It was. I think Joseph Parker lost that fight more than Dillian Whyte won it, because it was there for Parker to win, but he chose to, let it go until round 12, and then put his foot in the gas. I envision this fight being a lot more entertaining because I think stylistically Daniel Dubois is many things, but gun shy isn't one of them. He's going to be letting shots go from early on. Defensively, he is a little bit opened. He doesn't, I don't think, take a shot as good as maybe say a Zhilei Zhang. Not to say he's chinny, he's not, but I think that if Parker opens up and sits down, he may be able to at least get his respect and make Dubois think a little. Although Filip Hrgović, I think, hits harder than Joseph Parker, but that didn't deter Dubois in the slightest. And I could see Dubois forcing Parker to work in this fight, in which case we should see a more interesting fight. You see, you need to remember that the saying styles make fights really is true. You take someone like a Shakur Stevenson, who to me is not particularly entertaining, and to a lot of people he isn't, and it's the way he fights. You put him in there against, say, a Loma, put him in there against someone like a William Zepeda, you will probably, because of the style clash, you would probably see a more entertaining fight because he'd need to. So, just because Joseph Parker hasn't, set the world alight, I mean, he's not put on Gatti War type fights or, Klitschko-Lewis type fights, it doesn't mean that in this fight we're going to get another snooze fest. I don't think we will. I think we're going to get an intriguing fight. I think early on Joseph Parker is going to be particularly dangerous. If you see him when he's fresh, and Joseph Parker doesn't really have a stamina issue. He's never to my note. The only time I've ever really seen him gas a little bit was against Carlos Takam in the mid-round of their fight many years ago. He's very inexperienced and he's very young. I think he was only in his early 20s at the time. Very experienced at that level, and that was a much, much fresher Carlos Takam. I think he'd only lost twice at the time. That's the only time I ever really noticeably seen him get fatigued. In this fight, I think it's going to be interesting early on. I think that it's going to be not too dissimilar to Joyce versus Parker. Now, no one's going to tell me that wasn't an entertaining fight. It was. And I think we're going to see a similar conclusive result for Daniel Dubois. Late, though. I'd be very surprised. A lot of people are saying, well, if Dubois did that to Joshua, yeah, but Joshua was defensively so poor. His defense was like Swiss cheese. Had more holes in it than that. We're not going to see that from Joseph Parker. We may see a more competitive fight. In fact, I think Parker will win rounds in here. But I don't see him winning the fight. I just can't envision it being a bad fight, though. People saying, oh, it's not going to be... No. I can't... I can see this fight unfolding in a few scenarios, but I can't see it being a dull fight. I think this fight's going to be particularly good. I think people are going to be surprised by it. And win or lose, I think that there will be calls for Parker to stick around. And certainly if he wins, there definitely will be. But even if he loses, which I expect him to, I don't think his stock's going to take a hit. It's a bad... I don't want to say it's a bad look. Again, it's not necessarily... Well, it is and it isn't. When you've won your last two fights and you fought Wilder and Zhang, and they're talking about, when's Wilder going to fight next? Or when's Zhang going to fight next? They're wanting to get those guys out before you. Yeah, that does show that it's unfortunate, but you do need to still entertain in the world of boxing. You do have to. I think he will in this fight. This card, just to chuck it in there, is phenomenal. I really is. I'm just so happy that we have a card as good as this, and long may they last. If this is how we're starting 2025, brilliant. And I think the fact that we're hearing that Hearn, Warren, and Shalom, they're going to do more shows in the UK, I think it's good because it means likelihood is we'll get plenty of big Saudi cards, but we're not. The product on the ground level, on roots level in the UK, and arguably at the normal non-pay-per-view, just subscription-based action, won't suffer, because we have seen, certainly with Eddie Hearn this year, we have seen a lot of his shows in the UK really suffer as a result of all the work with the Saudis. Not so much Frank Warren, to be fair. I think next year it's going to be better for both. I think Frank Warren is just, at this point in his career as a promoter, I don't think Warren has ever been stronger, quite frankly. If you had said to me 2017, 2018, that Frank Warren would be doing what he's doing now, promoting the shows he's doing, everything, with the Saudis and all this, I would have said no. Frank Warren at best may sign a decent fighter. Dubois might do something, Yard might do something, but that's at best, you know, and we need to see what he does thereafter. I never would have envisioned Frank Warren would be able to turn it around the way he has. Listen, whether you like him or dislike him, and I got a lot of things about Frank Warren that I don't particularly like, but good Lord, you got to give the man his dues, 100%. So that's my thoughts on Parker versus Dubois, even though I ended up talking about Frank Warren for a bit. Let me know yours. I can't envision a boring fight, but maybe I'm wrong. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. Until later, people. Peace.